We may now begin the continuation of the Farm River Estates public hearing. It's about 8:01 p.m., so that's just about on time. Mr. Wee-Way, would you like to come forward? Thank you, Diana. That goes an extra. Robert, please.
Okay. Okay, good evening, Commission members. Bob Wee-Way for Codispodium Associates here tonight on behalf of the applicant. Basically, I think from where we left off, there were a couple of points we had to clean up with respect to the application. And I think the most prominent being the disposition of the easement areas to be conveyed over to the town of Orange on lots 2 and 3. What we've done is go back to the survey information that we had. There was some talk and discussion at the previous meeting with regards to a drain pipe that was located on the town open space area. And we had in fact located this pipe going back when we were first doing the survey work 3 or 4 years ago. And what we've done on this particular drawing, and I believe it shows up on your handouts with the proximity of that, is just located off the southwest corner of lot number 2. So there seemed to be some concern and issue with regards to the outfall from this pipe, and then the migration of that towards the wetlands and drainage channel that runs parallel to St. John's Drive in the vicinity of lots 2 and then ultimately down through lot number 3. So with that in mind, this particular pipe really has no impact or bearing on any part of lot 1. And at the previous hearing, we weren't absolutely sure with where this pipe was, so that's why we really didn't provide any additional comment on that. But I think that particular issue can certainly be cleared up with regards to what actually feeds into that system area. Now what we've done is we've shown 2 particular easement areas, one area on lot 2 and one area on lot 3, which I think addresses the concerns that the Commission had with respect to the drainage channels and the soils that exist on both of those lots. So what you can see from the handout, we've got an area delineated of approximately 0.4 acres, which is a triangular shape, approximately 149 feet by 246 feet. And that will encompass the primary drainage swale coming in through that area, which would receive the flow from that 8-inch PVC. In addition, there was some concern with the existing channel that runs down through lot number 3, that this area also be included within an easement, and we've delineated that on the handout, and that area is approximately ½ an acre in size, approximately 30 feet running parallel to the westerly boundary line on lot 3. The more particular dimensions are indicated on your handout sheet. Now with respect to that also, we did take a look at the detention basin. There were some issues or concerns with the detention basin as was shown, and if there was any ability to take and shift that a little bit further to the west and get that out of the tree line area. And what we did, I mean, we took a look at some of the areas back up and through here. On on average, right now, the detention basin is approximately is running on average about 40 feet away from the wetland system. So that was one of the reasons why we kind of kept it in the area that we did, because we didn't want to get too close. And then secondly, given the proximity of the stream channel in this area, we don't want to get too close with that detention basin with the excavation in that area to possibly start to have any groundwater impacts from that particular area. And based upon the review of the test hole data, I'm really reluctant to take and move this much closer to that stream. If the commission wanted to, I think we've got the flexibility to move it about 5 feet. But I really wouldn't want to go much more than that and start having any potential impacts from adjacent groundwaters within that area. So with that, I think those are basically the pieces of information I think the commission asked us to prepare from the last hearing. So with that, I'll try to answer any questions the commission may have. In addition to that, Gary Riccitelli is also here too, if there are any questions that need to be directed to him.
Thank you, Robert. Scott, do you have any concerns about whether this be an easement conveyed to the town versus an actual transfer of property? Was that brought up before?
We had discussed that at the last public hearing, and essentially it cuts the property off from someone else anyway in some form or fashion, especially on Lot 2 because of the configuration of the lot. But given that it's a brand new subdivision, as it were, and brand new parcels, I still don't see a need for easements. I really don't. Why not have it be just clean?
Clean meaning?
It belongs to the town.
The town, so that's a transfer of title, right?
Because it's their water.
That's what I thought you wanted to
That's their water that is coming down all the way across and through. So, this just, quite frankly, no pun intended, muddies the waters. And it doesn't prevent, and it does not help with the enforcement issue.
Having an easement isn't as good as being owned because it's still going on another person's property.
Exactly.
All right.
And they can, at that point, go out and do something to it to block it up, which anybody can do, like steal wetlands markers, but, why open ourselves up for such a beating down the road for
Rick, did you have something?
Yeah, is this entire easement in the swale or the drainage area, or no?
Which one are we referring to? The one on Lot 3?
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, it goes, if you take a look at the topography in that area, it does extend beyond the ditch. The ditch becomes more defined along Lot 3. If you take a look at Lot 2, it's a little bit broader. It kind of opens up.
Well, the thing I'm asking, wouldn't you want to give the ditch to the town? Because if half of it's, if there's a clog to it, is that homeowner responsible to clear it up, or the town?
Well, it's
Or the easement is just to go in, but who's going to clean it?
Yeah, with the way that we would perceive it, it's a drainage easement to the town of Orange. So if the town of Orange needs the right to go in there and maintain it, then they would have that right.
And if they have it, they can do it without it.
There is another proposed easement already on Lot 3 that takes you right into the detention pond.
Right.
That's right.
Right.
So this would be, it's a 30-foot wide one, if I'm not mistaken.
Right, and that basically picks up the roadway drainage from Farm River Road and St. John's Drive down to the detention basin. Again, that gives the town the right to go in there and maintain that portion of the piping system.
Other thoughts, commissioners? Okay.
Again, so if the way I'm seeing it is that the property line, the boundary line for Lot 3 then is still in the middle of the drainage ditch.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's the way it's presently shown.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Commissioners, anything else? Well, we may come back to that, but I just wanted to go on, is that Robert brought us in a new layout, as he's proposed up there on the map in red, where the easement is to be, and he also answered a question regarding the that pipe that looks like it's invert. It looks like over 8 feet. It drops 1 foot, 159 to 158.
Yeah, it's approximately a 1 foot drop.
1 foot drop there. So thank you for pointing that out. I think there was notes on our original map in that section.
Right.
Other questions or issues? Because if we go on here in a little bit, and closed in, I presume, we're not sure of this yet, but I presume we will close the public hearing tonight. That means that the presentation by the applicant is ended, and we won't have an opportunity to have that dialogue. It'll resort then to discussion amongst ourselves. Drew?
What about the mowing situation and the offer to put out wetlands markers? I'm reading last time's minutes.
Refresh my memory. What was that part about the?
There was concern about regarding the recent mowing of the ditch area and the location, and then Mr. Codispoti said something, well, if you want us to put up some markers, we'll do that.
Yes.
Did we cover all the bases on that?
Well, that sort of leads to, and Robert or Scott, if you want to address this, that sort of leads us to where we are tonight about giving us this, not necessarily giving, wrong term, about providing for an easement on the property such that those very places are in the red scored areas, if I'm right. So it would be addressed if this
So I
action.
guess to redirect that.
Not really.
It's an easement at that point. It still belongs to the property owner.
Still does belong, and they could mow it.
Sure.
I understand your point.
That mowed area is in the red area.
Yes.
Yeah, and again, I mean, if there's a hang-up on the wording, that could be changed over to a combination conservation easement, but again, if the town is looking at it for the ability to go in there and have the ability to maintain it, then in essence, you may be talking about the same thing with the town going in there and wanting to mow that area to maintain the ditch and channel too. So whether it's the town doing it or the homeowner, you can still have those two possibilities.
Well, the town doesn't have to maintain that. I mean,
Well, I think that was...
The town, I mean, in reality, the town would just have to clean the left side. You're giving them access with a backhoe to get in there. Right? I mean, this is just an easement. I mean, they don't have to clean that side. I mean, the homeowners would be responsible to it also.
Well, I think in part, and correct me if I'm wrong, but what the commission was looking for was the ability to basically maintain this channel from just up at the northwest corner of Lot 2, where it's a pretty flat and open drainage ditch system, and having the right to maintain it from the northwest corner of Lot 2 and then coming all the way down to the southwest corner of Lot 3. Because as it's set up right now, and Scott brings up a good point, that part of the channel right now is coming in through the open space that the town of Orange presently owns, and then the stream kind of meanders back onto the property of Lot 3. So by including the easement over it, it gives the town the ability to basically maintain it from point A to point B all the way down. And again, I don't think we're adverse to, if you want to put the connotation on there, that it's a conservation easement. If you're worried about the homeowners getting back in there and mowing the area, or doing any disturbance along those lines, we could certainly incorporate it into a conservation easement, if that's the way the commission wants to go with it.
If you go a conservation easement, depending upon how it's worded, you run the possibility of preventing the town from taking care of it.
Well, that's the point that I just made. So it's a
that's why,
double-edged sword. I mean, you can't have your cake and eat it too.
Again, so the easement really is just not the right way to do it.
I thought that the part of the discussion was that the homeowner could possibly come to the town regarding the water that was coming onto the property. And it wasn't, and I think that's what the whole purpose of the discussion wasn't making an easement, like who's going to take care of it, was that the homeowner could say, you have water from the town coming onto our property, and that's an issue.
Right, but I think, if you think about that on a town-wide basis, I mean, why is this corridor any different than any other wetland system that you have scattered throughout the town? You've got those wetland corridors on the adjacent Whitney acres, and I mean, if you follow that logic through, what is the difference between this wetland corridor here that runs across lots 8 and 9? It's basically the same principle. The water is always going to flow to the low point, which typically is going to be the wetland area scattered throughout the site. So, I mean, this system here is actually receiving runoff from the town roadway system, which is part of that Whitney Acres. It receives like runoff from the detention basin associated with Whitney Acres. up in that area too. And I mean, you just have that happening all.
No,
all
I
over
understand
town.
that. I think what we were concerned about was the elevation of the land on that, especially up in that corner.
Right.
And I think what you were talking about with on the center part there was that because the elevation was much higher, it was more of a funnel effect that was going to push it under the road and go through. Whereas on Lot 2, it was just going to flow right into that area anyways. I think that's what our concern was.
Well, I think elevation-wise, and I think we did go through this at the last hearing, from this edge of the ditch up to the proximate backyard, there's almost a 6-foot change in grade there. Once you get into the actual wetland, this area is relatively flat, just as well as this area is relatively flat within the wetland corridor proper.
All right, it seems as if we now have the application as it is with the new offer tonight, meaning there are changes to the application, that there are 2 new easements being presented to us, which is not a conveyance of, or I should say not a transfer of property, which I think some people at the table may be arguing for. To the extent that changes, it can, but if we close the public hearing, it's going to have to stand as is and pass our muster as it is now. I guess one other thought would be during this public hearing, Robert, if you wanted to talk to the owner who was here tonight and determine whether he has some new thoughts on that before we actually close the public hearing.
Yeah, and I think we could certainly ask him to come up and.
Okay, let's get off of that issue, not to lose it. We'll come back to it. Does anyone have any?
I think we could certainly ask him to come up and.
Okay, let's get off of that issue, not to lose it. We'll come back to it. Does anyone have any other thoughts or questions? Because, again, I just reiterate this, is once we close the public hearing, we won't have the opportunity to have the applicant at the podium and ask questions and have a discussion. So now is our chance to consider what other thoughts or concerns you have on this whole application. Michael?
Yeah, I'm just looking at the minutes that we had from last meeting, and basically, we talked about discussions continued regarding a site walk of the property, alternatives regarding house locations on lots 1, 2, 3, 6, 7, and 9, receiving additional details of the site plans. Was that part of something that we were asking for them to come in with? I'm just asking for clarification.
Well, if I'm not mistaken, as if we approved the project, that those lots, I think there were the wetland lots that will come back as individual lots. Yeah. I think that's what we talked about.
Okay, that's what it is.
Yeah, and tell me if I'm wrong, but I didn't understand that they were going to present the 8.5 by 11-inch color depictions of the house configurations changed or moved at all. I don't know, did anyone else have expectations that way? Diana or Leslie or someone else?
What?
2 weeks ago, they presented lots 4, 8, and 4, 5, and 8. I believe it was 4, 5, and 8 with shifted, what do they call, proposals for the houses and the stone walls. And what Mike was just referring to was a longer list of potential 8.5 by 11s, but I don't think we asked for that, but rather for that to be considered as each application came back in.
Actually, that's what I had requested, and there was discussion that that was not going to be done, that it was going to be done with each application as it came in.
But you wanted it on record that there was concern, yeah.
I think that when a subdivision application comes in, we should have an established vegetated buffer surrounding all of the wetlands to protect them, that is continuous, that connects from one property to the other, so it's very clear. You can put monuments in there, and everybody knows where it is when they purchase the property. The way it's done now is it's really up in the air. They're going to come in with a house maybe twice as big as these. These aren't that big. They're about 35 by 55. And, you know, they're going to want to move it back. We don't have any guarantee that they're going to stick with these buffers. And then we're going to have to deal one at a time, and the buffers aren't going to match up adjacent to the property. So that was why I thought that, you know, it should be established.
Okay, that clarifies it a lot for me. Thank you. Other thoughts on it? Do you want to call up the applicant or inform him of our discussion? He was away for a moment.
I think he's here. Let me see if I could get Gary up to.
Mr. Riccatelli? Unfortunately, when you stepped out, there was a discussion regarding the easements that you did not now have the advantage of hearing, and it is to some commissioners' thoughts that an easement conveyed to the town on lots 2 and 3 are inadequate rather than a property transfer because of enforcement issues and the problem of potentially having town-owned property and water going on to these lots. So
Okay.
that sort of brings you up to speed, but there was some other thoughts that you're at a disadvantage here. I'm sorry for that. Would you like to address this at all and then maybe come to that issue?
Yes, certainly. Gary Riccitelli, 200 Boston Post Road, Orange. We had some discussion about this previously as far as whether or not we could accomplish what the town is looking to accomplish here, that is getting access to the property for purposes of maintaining the culvert and also the drainage channel that runs alongside of our property. There's a number of ways that this could be done. It could be done by an easement in perpetuity, so that the town would have clear-cut access. It could be done via a long-term 99-year lease, ground lease, or it could be done by a deed conveyance. From my standpoint, it really doesn't matter which way we do it. If it's simpler and more efficient to do it via a deed conveyance, it really doesn't affect me or impact the development one iota. So, I'm open, and I'm willing to consider doing it any one of a number of ways.
No, thank you. That goes right to the point. Any questions for Mr. Riccitelli on that particular matter then, or thoughts?
So long as I don't have to mow the grass in the culvert, that's what matters.
Thank you. Well, Scott made several points regarding it, and that is, though we have a proposed easement, the concern was that does not necessarily give the town the right to go on there to do what they need to do. It just gives us access to it, but who is responsible for it? And we trailed off into different things related to that.
Well, a prescriptive easement could be written such that it gives the town all the rights and responsibilities, just as though they were the fee owner of this property. But like I say, if the commission's preference is to have an outright deed conveyance, it's immaterial to me.
Okay.
And I'm certainly willing to go along with it that way.
Well, thank you. Commissioners, any other questions for the property owner now? As I said before, and just to let Gary hear the advantage of this, is that once we close the public hearing, you won't have the opportunity to have him at the podium again until we have our discussions and presumably bring this whole matter to a closure. So now is your, perhaps, I think, your final opportunity to have a dialogue with him. Scott? No? He was shutting off his microphone. Gary, would you like to address us on any other matter?
Yeah, I really don't have any other issues or discussion other than if anyone has any questions, I'll be here in the audience. If anything should come up, I'll be happy to address it.
Thank you. Thank you for being so prompt. Robert, thank you. Do you have anything else you'd like to address? Closing remarks, as it might be?
I think that's pretty much it. I think that we've tried to, sincerely address, the comments that have come forth from the commission. We've made numerous attempts to try to satisfy the concerns that the commission's had, and hopefully the commission will look favorably upon this application.
Thank you, Robert. Would anyone else from the audience like to come up? Mr. Zioli, I'll get to you in a moment, Leslie. Come on, Mr. Zioli, please come up.
Bob, I missed, how much is that?
Here, would you give this, please, to?
By acreage?
It's nearly an acre, it looks like.
Pieces
Yeah,
are there?
it's
0.9
0.92 acres all told.
Yeah.
It's a half an acre on lot number 3
Almost,
and
not
0.4 acres.
Not quite an acre more.
Not quite an acre.
All right. I have been watching this upstairs, and, Jim Zioli, Old Tavern Road, also first selectman. I was watching this upstairs in the office and came down. Scott and I have had some discussion on this in the last day or two, and also spoke with Mr. Riccitelli about it just now. And I told him that the town's preference would be to have this deeded outright, so then it becomes part of the open space property that the town purchased, and it also makes clear-cut boundaries for the future for whoever may be in the big chair that has to make sure that this is maintained properly and the areas are kept. It is a very, it's a wet area part of that, but it's a very beautiful area, and it's part of the whole ecosystem of that valley in there, and I think it would be better kept under the town control than under private property ownership. And it sounds like Mr. Riccitelli is willing to go along that route with it, it sounds like. And another just about an acre. I think that would push the town-owned part to about 45.65 or 45.75 at this time. So I think that would be twofold benefit to the open space parcel there.
I think
And,
looking forward, if I may interrupt,
Yeah.
Jim, and you know that property as well as Scott and others, unfortunately, Jim Ewing isn't here, but apparently that's going to look forward to fewer problems in the future as drainage from town-owned property crosses another property owner's.
I think it will be,
land.
because we get quite a few phone calls here over the course of whether you go by the month, 6 months, or year, from early subdivisions in the town where there are, in a lot of cases, are remnants of drainage swales or water passages, and developers didn't always leave clear-cut paperwork as to who had easements, right-of-ways, who was in charge of maintenance, and it's made some very hard feelings with some people in the town because they don't understand why we don't come clean these out, and it's not our property. And, you know, moving forward, like I said, I was upstairs in my office watching you, and your idea about monuments, marking areas, is a good idea, and this about when you have a developer coming in to do a development like this of a raw piece of land, I think that's something to keep very in the forefront also, is clear-cut paperwork, knowing who owns it, who has the right to travel it, and who maintains it. Because this is something, you know, a lot of Orange was developed in the late 50s and 60s and 70s, and it's not all quite so clear. And I think moving forward, as a lot of the land that is getting developed has, you know, been the pickup of a lot of surrounding developed property, it's gained some wet ground, and I think it's important that it's documented for people to paper trace when they need to, whether they're putting an addition on their house or a swimming pool or installing a new septic system.
I think you're right, Jim, and this commission has moved forward to try to actually put things on the deeds that relate to approvals of inland wetlands issues. So
very
to
important.
the extent we can, we will.
So that's my thoughts on that situation there. And hearing Mrs. Ross's comments, I think you do have your work cut out for you with some of these lots. I mean, if they do decide to build a home different than what is plotted here, but that's for the future, and we don't have a crystal ball to know exactly what's going to happen there, so your precautions are well heeded, I think.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you, Jim. Thank you very much. Any other concerns from the public? I don't see anyone else here to come and address us. Any thoughts from the commission before we move to close the public hearing? Or Scott as well. Any thoughts?
No, I actually want to thank Mr. Richtelli and for making things a lot easier for all of us, number one, but I think Rick, Walter, and Leslie, if memory serves me correctly, were all sitting members during Toll Brothers, and we went through an awful lot of aggravation with that piece of property with water from Ridge Road draining onto that site, and the property owners said, we don't want your water anymore. And I mean, it took months, literally months, to get that straightened out, where ultimately a new drainage system ended up being put in to bypass the Toll Brothers property and go down and enter into the town property.
You remember, Scott, there was a very severe accident over there.
On the downside of it, because of the icing condition, but right, that whole, and that was one of those things that if there was any way possible to prevent a situation like that happening again on a new subdivision, so that we did not have to go through that again, all I can say is thank you, because having been through this too many times already, the last one I bring forward just because I know there's still some commissioners that are still with us. And it took 7.5 to 9 months to resolve that issue before everything got taken care of. So this way it's over, done, finished, and we can move on. Thank you.
Okay. Well, thank you. Any other thoughts? I'm looking to close this public hearing in a few moments unless somebody has something else that we need to allow someone to come to the podium, or a need for you to ask somebody while they're at the podium any questions. Well, then I'm going to close the public hearing at 8:31 p.m. and we can now move on to deliberations of this application.
We have 30.
Yeah, we probably...
We have 35 days to make a decision.
Don't know. Okay, 35 days. To the extent, I'll leave it open to the commission tonight. We have another item on the agenda which we have to deal with here momentarily as well. But to the extent that you would like, let me know if we want to then just put this on the agenda for discussion at our next meeting, or go right into it for a little bit tonight. Rick?
No, I just made a list of,
I saw you move your pencil, so I picked
well, I
it.
made a list of items that, I would include.
Okay.
So, thing I said for lots 4, 5, and 8, what they submitted with the retaining walls and the vegetation to be
Right.
on the actual plan. So the new person that buys that lot or that land knows where that wall is, but also lot 5 to connect to the existing wall. Then we talk about that.
Yes.
The rock wall to connect to an existing rock wall. So I was going to put that in there. And also, all the wetland lots would have to come back as individual lots or applications.
Well, not just the wetland lots. Each lot has to come back.
No, just the wetland lots.
You can do it either way you
Yeah.
want, but it becomes,
What, I think they're all impacted.
No, I don't think they're all in wetlands, right?
Not in.
Oh.
Within the 100-year.
Right.
Well, okay, what's
Well,
just
no,
the
but
difference? Go ahead. I
You know what I'm
interrupted
saying?
you.
I'm
Yes,
saying
I
if
interrupted
there's
you.
actual wetlands there, I was going to have them come
Yeah.
back, but if
Yes.
they're not, I mean, it's just
Yeah,
a standard
okay.
application. This is my opinion. I mean,
Yeah, this
anyone
can
else
be
could
put into
jump in.
Yep.
And I also put in, what you submitted tonight was that easements on both lots was 2 and 3 to be deeded to the town.
Yeah.
I don't know if anyone else has any other concerns.
Commissioners, thoughts? Now's the time for a bit of discussion.
one of the things that I have a concern about, that I think I brought up on the Sunrise Hill, and I believe because it is the same high quality of engineering involved, that the detention basin berm is a rather proprietary setup, and I would really like to see engineering supervision for that berm assembly, including the compaction tests that I believe are called out on the plans, the types of materials, where they come from, etc.
Did you want to look at this? I was just pulling it up to see what these elevation changes are. Is that significant from there to there? I can't really tell. Oh, here,
152 to 48, 152 being the high
the
spot.
height, yeah. So
And then
it's-
back down to 146 on that side, so that's pretty good size right there.
yeah.
SP7 on the top left-hand corner, there is a detail of the detention pond berm impervious core. I couldn't remember the term.
Well, that sounds reasonable for a condition, actually.
I mean, that's just something I hope somebody will at some point make a part of their motion. Let me go back through my notes. The other note that I had there is with the new,
Do you need this?
I'm sorry, I've drawn a blank on the road.
Farm River Road? St. John's and Farm River.
Farm River Road. Wow. With Farm River Road, there is a crossing north of that that's existing now on a farm road that I think should be removed. Is it, again, it will
Up in here.
create it's actually next to lot,
It's 9, 8.
Thought it was up here. Where's,
it's lot
8?
8. Comes through here. The proposed crossing is the box culvert on Farmer Road. If you go just due north of that, up probably around.
Because that would be where it flows.
That's where it flows,
So it's
probably
gotta
up
be
around
somewhere in
wetland flags, 137 maybe. 137, 155, somewhere right in that area across there, that be removed at some point before that.
Yeah, that was
lot is-
discussed and agreed to, actually. Diana, you said something here tonight that actually startled me, and I'm just not sure if I understood it correctly. I understand it, but I'm not clear on it. Is that you said something about this houses are, the way you said it was, I took it as they're relatively small. I took these houses as to be relatively large, as being depicted as 5-bedroom houses. Did you measure them by, so you're saying small in the way that they're laid out, on number of feet? Okay, the footprint of theirs, okay. Does everyone understand that? It was because I took them as being large, thinking number of bedrooms versus the actual footage, the footprint.
Well, that width of most of them is 35 feet, so if somebody wants something that's wider than that, it's going to have to go closer to the wetlands on a lot of these.
So your concern would
I mean,
be
the
to-
depth of the
yeah.
house is 35, and then by 55 or 60, most of them are.
Well-
And some of the houses we've been seeing are a lot bigger than that, I think. Plus, if they want pools, what happens if somebody comes in with a site plan application on one of these that we didn't mention? Let's see, it was 8, 5, and 4. So let's say on lot 2, and they want to do, right now, the limit of disturbance on lot 2 that's shown is about 5 feet from the wetland.
well, lot 2 has to come in for individual application.
Right, but
Yeah.
let's say they come in and they got a great big house and they got their pool and they say, but we can't put what we want on the property we just bought if you don't approve this. Then do we go back and say, we really wanted a 40-foot buffer because that's what we thought would protect the wetland, but they're coming in saying they can't develop their property the way they want to now.
No, the way the house is shown, I'm looking at this, it's the same.
Yeah.
They could come in and build this design. If they change this design, I mean, they still have to come in. If they change the design and say they want a bigger house or relocate the pool, they would have to come in.
They would have to come in, but what if they come in and they have a really large house and they want to put, the driveway on the side of the house, have a side loading garage, and they
Yes.
come in and the disturbance is much closer to the wetland? We don't know what they're going to come in
But
with.
it get denied.
The concern
Yeah, but is the commission really going to deny it if they say, this is what we want?
Yeah, because they'll say this is the house that was proposed. You could go smaller, but you can't go bigger.
But whenever they come in, it's an approximate house, and they're going to come, we're going to get them in bigger, and we've got nothing to say, no, we wanted an established buffer here of 40 feet or whatever. We've got nothing to say that to them.
Isn't there a stone wall on that particular lot?
No.
No.
No, okay.
I think with the other part of the development up by Lambert Road and things, we had talked about everything being hypothetical. I mean, all these houses are hypothetical, the development's hypothetical, and there wasn't really much that we could do until exactly what you said. You come in with the site plan exactly what you want, could we make any decisions? And then we're sort of, like you said, we're stuck with, or where we have to approve or not approve of what they want. And that was, I think, another issue was, are these houses built to, I guess, what is the percentages to the property? I know there's a ratio that there has to be as far as the impact?
I think that's
these
probably
lots
pretty
are-
low.
Yeah,
Yeah.
these lots are fairly big. I don't,
You know, it's also not fair to a property owner if they purchase a property and they think they can go right up to the wetland, because it doesn't, example, lot number 2, it looks like they could go right up to the wetland over here by WF 74, between WF 74 and 75, and then they come in and we say, no, you can't do that.
It's buyer beware. I
Well,
mean,
well, but
it-
there's
it-
nothing to be aware of,
Yeah.
because we don't
think-
have an approved plan that says you can't go closer than 40 feet or
I think
whatever.
Diane was arguing before, or at least in making the point, is that if we put it in the record now based upon the approval of this application, it is a matter of record then, versus waiting till then where they back us, not necessarily back us in the corner, but put us in a position whereby we may have to deny an application whereby we think the feasible alternative is to remain at this size or smaller versus what their desires are for what they purchased.
Well, I just think they put the largest house they could on this lot, so it's gonna be this house or smaller. It's no, they can't come in with a bigger house, it's not gonna work. No, I mean, if they come in,
But if they come in with a bigger house, then we're in a position of possibly having to deny their dream house. You know,
I think
and then we're putting ourselves in jeopardy of being taken to court for an appeal if we deny it.
Well,
I
the-
mean, I don't know, I mean, Scott, you know better, but if this is the footprint that was approved, it can't go larger, really, it's gotta go smaller. I mean,
Not necessarily.
no, they could come with a bigger house, but it's not gonna meet the regulations.
Not
That's my opinion.
necessarily.
Well, I don't know that it wouldn't meet the regulations, but I think one of the things that I would envision potentially happening here, and it's happened recently, and you all, I don't think you'll be surprised, is that I suspect that some people may want their larger backyard barns, as if you know, going up around town are these other off buildings, and those have been, none of those are proposed here whatsoever.
I mean, I don't see a problem them asking for whatever 80 by 60 barn if it fits in there,
Yeah, exactly.
you know?
Yeah.
It's just like any other lot. Whatever they come in with, they still have to go in by the zoning regulations, the wetlands, it all has to be in there.
I'm not having trouble with either side of your arguments, whether it's meaning Rick's points or Diana's, because I know there is a remedy based upon what we can do with this application upon our presumed that there will be a motion and a motion to approve. What's it dependent upon is what's in that motion. So it can be remedied.
Well, it's difficult to remedy it. If the applicant is not willing to, let's say, what I would like to see is a deed restriction, a buffer with a deed restriction. Unless the applicant has agreed to that, we can't do that.
No, I think
So
you
that's-
misunderstood, is that my remedy would be, is that if you are, or someone does make a motion to approve tonight or sometime in the near future, that in fact there would be a condition that there are restrictions based upon what we see here, so that it does become a record, that it's included in the.
Based upon, what do you mean what you see?
Well, just, I mean, that you could state that on lot number 1, that you'd have to have exactly what you wanted, markers at the point, or some other terms and conditions that says that the homeowner can't come in or move it in any way, so that it is on the record. And that fulfills what Rick was saying, well, buyer beware.
But I think Diane's, if I'm not misinterpreting it, you were saying that part of the application should have been with that stuff built into it automatically. And I think
That'd
that
be
was
on
why
the-
you had
on the
called,
sheets,
you had
yeah.
asked for that stuff to come back on the lots 1, 2, whatever they were, and
Yeah.
you knew exactly where the buffer zones were going to be for the wetlands, and that could not be infringed upon from that point on. And so regardless of the house that came in, they still couldn't go into that area. And I think that's what you were asking for.
Yeah.
Right, and then know up front, we can't at this point say, okay, we're going to limit their activities on the site unless the applicant has agreed to that.
Yeah.
And I don't see that has happened, that they've agreed to limit a certain distance to provide a certain vegetated buffer from the wetland.
Other thoughts, commissioners? I think those are some of the salient points that we've discussed over a number of meetings, and they're still on the table. We resolved some of them with the offer tonight from the applicant for a transfer of property, but leaving other issue still unresolved in the minds of some of us here. I'm sorry, you cannot. We had just a motion from someone from the audience to come to the podium, but we can't take it. The hearing is closed, and that the only thing we can do now is discuss it amongst ourselves. I wish you could. You'd probably add some value here.
When the lots are brought back to the commission at that time, as with any application that the commission looks at, our charge, of course, is to protect the welfare of the wetland. And if we get a lot that comes in that is questionable in commissioner's mind as to size, play courtyard, basketball, hoop building, whatever you want to call those things, etc., at that point, wouldn't that be the time to say, well, we feel the impact is going to be too great, so if you construct a retaining wall for something you talk about, or a stone wall of some sort, and that would be the line in the sand, if that's as far as you could go, wouldn't you effectively be doing the same thing?
They're not going to know ahead of time what their limits are.
Who's they?
The person who purchases the property. They're going to purchase the property, put their dream house on there with the tennis court or whatever they want. They're going to come in, and we're going to tell them, no, you can't have it.
Well, I thought, quite frankly, I heard the term setback and buffer both used twice in the last several minutes, and we have a 100-foot upland review area. That is our charge per statute, that the commission will make a decision based on an application as to whether they are meeting, meaning the commission is meeting their challenge or their charge with a challenging application before them, that nobody knows what that, other than the 100-foot upland review area, and this entire subdivision came in with less than 100 feet across the board. So I think they have a fairly well-established area, but if it needs to be tweaked because they want to do something else with it, I don't think that's any different than any other application that comes before you.
I think, to me, the difference is that we're approving a subdivision, and in my mind, I don't have enough information to know how much disturbance is going to be done on each one of the lots, or how much impact is going to occur to the wetland at this point. And once we approve the lots, we have to approve development on them. And it's going to be much more difficult at that point to establish the buffers, and they're not going to be coordinated with the adjacent property, so they're not going to be easily identified, like connected from one to the other. And I think they'll end up, over a period of years, becoming random, depending on who's on the commission, that sort of thing. So I just feel that when the subdivision comes in, that's the time that you establish your limit of disturbance to protect the entire wetland system, and not try to do it piecemeal each time a site plan comes in, and then have to deal with the disappointment of the applicants because they don't know that they can't build, 10 feet from the wetland or whatever.
Scott, would you like this?
No, there's virtually no limit of disturbance shown on the plan, other than the silt fence. I mean,
Other than the silt fence, that's it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, well, then that's, I think, a fairly strong start. I mean, that's what we
This one is 5 feet from the wetland.
So they can't go any farther, can they?
No, they can't. But to me, that's too close to the wetland.
No argument there.
Which lot was that, Diana?
2.
Drew, you reaching for a microphone?
So trying to listen very carefully and on a couple of different ideas. What are our options actually here?
Well, the main option is this ultimately will come to I presume, a vote. So we can impose conditions in in leading up to a motion. Can propose conditions in that motion and have it seconded and then discussed and then vote yes or no. That's really where we are. We can't go back to the applicant now and ask them to amend the application.
No.
Because that would require us then to go back through the whole public hearing, and it's not going to happen, I don't think.
The way I look at these lots that are coming back is just like any other lot in town. If somebody wants to put up a house, we could ask them to put a retaining wall or a wall in the back to define the boundary. When this person comes back for lot 2, we could say, we would like a rock wall there, just like the other lots. It's a new application.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, that's the way I look at it.
I can understand that argument, but I'm also sympathetic to what Diane is saying in one sense, is that the entire commission, every one of us here may not be sitting here when number 2 comes in. There is no institutional memory as to what was discussed, and it's not on the plan.
The other issue is the issue of a taking or an appeal. At this point, this is where we want to establish the limits of what can be done on the property. If we wait till they come back, it just puts us in a really bad position, I think, when we're doing each site plan. You know, we have to do it with the old lots that were approved years and years ago. Why do we have to keep doing it that way? Why don't we establish a decent buffer that protects the wetland in the entire subdivision? And then that puts the potential buyers on notice so they know what their limits are, and we know what the limits are, and it's been established, and we know there will at least be a sufficient buffer to protect the wetland.
The only way to achieve that now, unless I'm mistaken, help me here, please, is that we would have to deny this application, have them come back in with another plan and go through the whole process again. I don't think there's another way around it. That if everyone wants to go that route.
I don't believe there is, and that's my dilemma with this.
I think that gets back to what I had asked about.
It does.
You know, when you had asked for the specifics for the lots for 1, 2, 3, 6, 7, and 9, as they did for, 4, 5, and 8. So we knew exactly what the delineation was on each of the lots. And right now, you're saying we don't have that, and you're trying to set a precedence to say, okay, rather than have us go to maybe some type of litigation or something, then have it in the plan to begin with. And when we had asked for that, and that wasn't supplied to us.
Ladies, gentlemen? Scott, are you trying to help us here by referring to our regs?
Yes, I was, and we're still at, it's 100 feet. So it's open from 0 to 100. If you were to, again, the only way I can see it is to mandate that the clearing limits don't exceed what is, if you're comfortable with the silt fence limits that are shown on the plan. If you're not, I mean, I don't see any reason why they can't be moved. It's part of a motion.
If you look at the standards and criteria for the decision, the one that I'm having trouble with is the relationship between the short-term and long-term impacts of the proposed regulated activity on wetlands or watercourses and the maintenance and enhancement of the long-term productivity of such wetlands or watercourses. I don't know right now what that's going to be. I just don't. And I don't know how we can know that until we actually see the application that comes forward to us, because it could be anywhere on the property.
The one way we've got a solution to that is whereby we've already asked the applicant on 4, 5, and 8 to do that. We pretty much know that. We didn't do it on the other lots and perhaps should have, but now we can't. The solution to that is deny the application. Another solution to that is to proceed and approve the application and be running the risk of what Diane has argued for the past half hour, is that in fact each lot be considered one at a time, and hopefully our institutional memory or those people sitting here will be here in order to face each of those applications as the homeowners come in, or the new lot property owners. Rick?
The thing I was going to say, I know we talked about 4, 5, and 8, and then you did ask for the other lots. He also mentioned the same thing, that each lot had to come back.
Yes.
That's what he said to us. which that's true. And then when they do come back, I know it might be an issue, but you could ask for whatever you want, just like any other application.
Yeah, Diane's point, though, is that they're going to walk in here with site plans and perhaps, fully laid out engine, I won't say, but a significant amount of work into a development that we may be faced with that's much different than what's shown here, simply because they may buy a 1.5 acre lot and think they can get a lot more on it. That we're going to be faced dilemmas in that. I suspect she's right.
Well, I mean, if developer buys a lot, they're gonna know where the wetlands are.
Yeah.
The flags. I mean, they're not just gonna buy and say, you know what, I'm gonna put a house smack in the middle here.
Right.
I mean, developers, whoever's gonna build a house, pretty much know.
Pretty
They know
very
they could
astute,
come in with
yeah.
a bigger house, but we have to review it.
Yeah. Others like to chime in here, please? There's a lot of important matters that were just discussed. Leslie, Walter, any thoughts on this matter that is under discussion or the whole application?
I'm in agreement with Rick about just moving the silt fence. Calling that, I mean, if that's the limit of disturbance, let's just move it.
Is that a dilemma too? I'm not sure,
Yeah.
because it's not on the plan now. That's an amending the plan. Or if the application doesn't show that it has the silt fence where we might want it now, that's a change that we didn't ask for. You saying that we should make it as a condition of approval? I suspect they could live with something like that. I don't know.
There's got to be some type of verbiage that you can put into a sentence that would certainly put up a red flag to whomever may be the ultimate purchaser. Either this is a flip from developer to developer, or if they parcel out the lots themselves, there needs to be a red flag somewhere that lets anybody know that there is only, I think it was up on Green Circle, if memory serves me. Walter, you're the only one I can look to for this one, up there off of Route 34, and I believe Codaspoti was on that one too. This goes back probably 15 years ago, but the commission approved an envelope and an envelope only, and nothing more. And that was it. Those were the parameters that they had to work within. I believe there was a bank that ultimately ended up taking the property, if memory serves me, and that's how it was presented to the commission to make their decision on, is that this is the window, this is the envelope, this is the space, and it can't be any larger. So you may be able to incorporate something to that effect, i.e. either a silt fence boundary, footprint of the house and how far past that you can go. But one of the other things you have to take into consideration here, fortunately this lot all these lots are already cleared, but septic systems and their reserve areas do chew up a lot of space, and they do cause a lot of trees to be cut down. So again, these are all feasible septic designs too. These are not actual septic designs, and these are going to change also with each individual house, lot, etc. So I'm saying maybe there's a way to craft one sentence here that can accomplish, besides no and deny it, to maybe assuage some of the fears here of what has transpired in the last 20 minutes.
How about something like, and I don't know if this is even legal, that the town reserves the right to, again, it's kind of restating the regulations, just that the town reserves the right to sufficiently protect the wetlands throughout the entire, and just stamp that on.
That's why we're here.
Yeah, that doesn't add anything to it.
You put down the footprint of the house cannot be any larger, or it can't be altered backwards or towards the wetlands or something like that. So they have to make it smaller, but not bigger.
So, again, a red flag.
Another option might be to say that each plan, I don't know how to exactly word this, would come back and establish protective buffers similar to those on Lot 5, 8, and 4 in distance and design. And then that would be a guideline that, you know, the minimum one here I think is 40, no, 30, something like that, some sort of a guideline for each lot.
That seems like a reasonable proposal.
Well, I wouldn't put a minimum, I would just say the guidelines, so when they come back, we choose.
Not a minimum.
Because if you give them the minimum, guess what, they're gonna take the 30.
Yeah, that's what that was an example. I teach similar in distance and design to these. When they look at this, they're going to see what that is.
Let's go out to bid, but don't exceed this.
Really? Other thoughts? It's just after 9 o'clock. I don't know if you want to continue much longer on this tonight or pursue it.
Just one comment. We've always gone with the assumption with any plan that's presented that the footprint of the house is the largest one that the plot will take. And that's kind of been just an unwritten assumption. Maybe that should be written down as a
yeah, I don't know that that will or won't work, but my concern is that we have probably very little jurisdiction over that, if you will, that concrete kind of stuff, meaning the building itself. We don't design them. We can't tell them what facade or anything like that. If it's going to be anywhere, it's zoning. It's certainly not us.
A lot of them come in with a 5-bedroom house and a pool. Then the actual house that comes in is going to be a 3-bedroom house with no pool and a smaller septic system. I mean, you got to go for the most when you go for approval.
Right, and that's what I'm saying.
And they're always going to do that.
Just that be written down. That assumption be written down almost as a preamble, so any potential buyer will read that. No, I can't throw in my 7-bedroom house or 12-bedroom mansion.
But that's determined by the septic system, and I'm almost positive every lot they went by the biggest septic system they could.
That's true.
Install there. If they could do a 8-bedroom house, they would have showed it. You know?
But they can't, so.
No, that's what I'm saying, right.
So.
I think the point of the referencing to lots 4, 5, and 8 are merit, you know, they give merit to give a reference to go back and say, okay, within each of the lots, this is the optimum or something that you have to attain or you know, try to build to. I mean, I think that gives us something already on the site that they did provide to us to say, okay, this is a workable situation. Because if had they not done that, we wouldn't have anything to go by. We would probably be coming back and saying, okay, well, let's deny the application because we don't have anything. But we do have references to 3 of the pieces that they did do that.
How about just stating something like this is a standard to follow? Not a minimum, not, you know, we'd like you to do this, just this is the given standard.
Would someone like to then start crafting a motion regarding this property tonight, or would you prefer that we move on to our next item on the agenda and come back again in 2 weeks?
Personally, I'd like to hold off on it, and mostly for conditions of approval.
I was just gonna craft up a motion, see how it goes. I mean, if no one else has any other items, I don't see why to carry it over. I mean, I just wrote down everything that everybody was talking about. I don't know.
All right. Well, you certainly can make a motion. Sure. Do you want I have my sheet here. I have one. Yeah, right. He has it out. Thank you.
I just want to bring one thing. It was bugging me. I finally found it here. And Rick, I'm going to look to you, but item number 5 on SP1, and I'm not sure if this is the case anymore, but I don't want to approve something that's not.
Oh, excuse me, Ron.
Again,
item number 5. Approved as layout. Is that what you're looking at?
Approved as to layout. Roads and drainage are subject to approval by the Board of Selectmen, and I don't believe that that's the case anymore.
They have to approve town roads.
Yeah, I thought selectmen do approve town roads.
That's what I thought too.
The acceptance of the town road, would that still be the same thing as the roads and drainage?
Roads and drains are subject to approval.
I mean, I've seen that
I'm at a
all
loss
the
a
way
little bit.
back in 1940s maps. I've seen that, and that was maybe predated a zoning commission, but.
And what would your concern be? Is that we went ahead and approved this application and that hasn't been done?
Or does it really belong there?
Or does it even belong?
Just something that's stuck in when I read it, because this is one of the very few firms that actually put some of our standard conditions on their site plans on a regular basis, and it's one of those things that I do look at.
Well, if I'm not mistaken, wetlands has to be their first approval. They go to zoning, and after zoning, if they have to go to the selectmen for the final approval of the road, that's the way it's gonna go, right?
I don't know if it does.
I know, but if it doesn't have to, then
If it doesn't have to, then it's moot.
once it's in
But
zoning.
are you concerned about having it on there?
Yeah, I am. That's all.
You could put a condition on it that said to check and make sure it's appropriate, and if not, take it off.
That's
Yeah.
simple. I just wanted to.
Yeah, that's fine.
SP 1, number 5.
All right, Rick, here, you want this in front of you?
I got.
I don't know if these are the latest plans.
Actually, this is the original. Do you have a date on the latest plan? Rick's gonna need that. Mine is dated August 2nd, the one I have in front of me, but there may be.
But we don't have a final.
No, the new final plan are gonna incorporate the retaining walls
Change, yeah.
in the plan.
Retaining walls and
Right.
fee simple of ownership on,
Well, let me,
2 and 3.
let me read what I'm gonna put. I'm gonna make a motion to approve.
Rick, before you do that, let me
Yep.
change the tape, please.
Okay.
As soon as I figure out how to do it.
You have transfer of property. That?
Yeah.
Deeded. Yeah, I didn't know if you had marked it. You ready, Scott?
Yes, please.
Go ahead.
Okay, I'm gonna make a motion to approve. I'll get the plans later, but, we'll start off with SP-1, item number 5, the approval of the town road. That has to go for the Board of Selectmen. If it's, required, they would have to go for it. If it's not, they could remove it. Lots 4, 5, and 8. And lot 5, the retaining wall is going to connect to an existing wall that was discussed. And lot 4, 5, and 8 will be on the new set of subdivision plans, showing the limits so the owners know where it is. Each lot with wetlands is going to come back. Do we need to name them, Scott?
Yes, please.
Okay. Just the whole thing.
I was my understanding, tell me if I'm wrong, they are all have wetlands. I don't think there's a single one
Well,
without.
if there's anything, the rule of thumb on the upland reviewer here, if there's anything less than 100 feet, then it needs to come back. If there's anything within that 100 feet, then it needs to come back.
That's this one, that's the 100 feet. No, I thought 7.
Yeah, 7 could be within 100 feet, looks like it's right on the edge. The other ones, I think, all are.
I mean, just 7?
7 might be the only.
I think
exception.
7 should come back if there's any disturbance
Oh.
within 100 feet.
Oh, we'll just
Then it's
have,
all.
you know what, we'll do all the lots come back. Make it easy.
All right, with an application, not just for review.
No,
If you
with-
look at item number 12 on the standard conditions,
No.
I think it's 12.
All right,
There's a yes or a no there, or,
yes, that would be, 12A, it's gonna be yes,
all
12.
right, so when you get to
Yeah,
that, or do you want to, we'll just do that right now.
yeah, it's gonna be a yes.
12A, yes.
what they showed on the plan submitted tonight, dated 11/27/07, for easement areas to be conveyed to the town. That's going to be changed to deeded to the town. Also, there's going to be an engineering firm to check the berm. I think it's on SP-7. And after the berm is complete by the engineering firm, they'll send an approval letter to the town confirming that the berm was designed and made according to their specs.
Please specify that that berm is for the detent pond.
Okay, for the detention pond. There's going to be the removal. I guess it's called the Old Farm Dirt Road. I could discuss that with Scott. It's between lots.
The crossing on, between lots 8 and 9, just north
Correct.
of Farm River Road.
Okay, between 8 and 9. And also on the plans, somewhere for the note, so when somebody purchased these lots, there's going to be some sort of a limit in the design for the existing lots to reference 4, 5, and 8. And when they come back in, there'll be some type of rock wall to determine the boundary line, which will be discussed when they come back with the applications.
Yeah, it'd be the limits of disturbance.
Right.
Wait, how did you word that?
That was similar in design and distance.
Yeah, from design for 4, 5, and 8, because they already have a design. So that when the lots come back, they're going to have some sort of, whatever you want to call a rock wall. I think one was just vegetation.
Mm-hmm.
The only concern I have with that now.
Wait a second, Diana. Let him finish his motion. No, we shouldn't have a discussion. You should finish his motion, then we can have a second, and then we can amend it and redo it. Let's do it properly.
What I'm just going to do for the standard condition of approvals, it's going to be number 1, number 2, but we don't have the new plan yet, so the date's going to be after they draw it with the, or do you
Fill in the blank,
fill in the blank, right?
yes.
Because we're going to want the new plan with showing the limits of those lots. Number 3,
It's on the plan.
yeah, number 4, number 5. There is a deed restriction, right? Isn't there? You're going to need number 6.
I don't believe so.
No, there's no easement?
Not for
No?
the, because that was not part of the last, it's a different parcel.
Is it? Okay.
The 1 through 7, I think we did deed restrict. Or it was never filed. But this is so
There
I don't
was-
believe there's a deed restriction on any of
Not
these.
here, no.
Okay, so, number 7, number 8, number 9, it's gonna be number 10, and 12A, number 13, 14, you're not gonna, because you don't,
Sequence?
that's not gonna happen. For the road, yeah, I want you to do 14. You should get a timetable so you know when they're starting, right?
What about 15?
Well, 15, I think, is gonna pertain to, the detention pond, right?
No,
No.
not really. That's
That's a separate, that's gonna be separate, it's not gonna be a monitor.
yeah. It's
Right.
not like a large commercial.
Yeah,
The
Okay.
standard conditions of approval were just enumerated by Rick, and I apologize to all those here and watching tonight that we just put them in numbers, but what will happen with those standard conditions will be put out in a letter so you can understand what they mean. Anyone here at the commission certainly can look at these sheets. Do you have anything more to add, Rick?
no.
Diana or someone else? I refer to you because you were talking about it. Would someone else like to second that motion before we go on?
I'll second it.
Thank you, Diana. Now, Leslie, you had a thought right now, and then Diana, we're going to come back
Just
to
a
yours.
quick amendment. Just And 4, 5, and 8, just maintenance of all the plants until they're established?
Yeah.
How long?
5 years is reasonable. We might be able to do 3 on something like this. That would be including removal of invasive species, ensuring 85% survival, something like that.
Do you agree?
That's fine.
That's fine. Okay, that's amended.
So we were 5 or 3 or both?
5.
You mean 8?
Why not?
5 or 3 years, so it went
We
5
also
years.
remember, they will be coming back, so
Yes.
at that time, we still could tell them.
Yeah, that's a good point, thank you. Rick, I'm sorry, Diana, you had something to say.
Yes, on the condition that referred to these plans, could some text be added that would say that the buffer on one property needs to be consistent with the one on the next one? Otherwise, we could have them 10 feet off or something like that. And if we're having a stone wall, that should be carried from one property to the next. You know, not a stone wall here and a stone wall up here and, you know, that sort of thing.
So you would like, if there's a stone wall going to a different property, to be continuous?
Right.
Okay, that's fine.
Yeah, but what happens if the person doesn't like stone wall?
Then uniform?
There's
Yeah.
already,
Yeah.
behind lots,
This one.
5, 6, and 7, there's already a stone wall that runs the whole way.
Yeah,
Well, I think, because like lot 5, we're gonna be connecting to the existing stone wall. She wants to make sure that it connects to it, not go.
I
front of
think
it.
the wording on
Right.
the motion, which would have to be accepted, and again, is not necessarily that it be established as a stone wall, but there be a continuity in whatever delineated line is going in there. Whatever it is, the design wasn't the
Right,
point.
yeah.
It's a continuity in the
Right,
line.
because lot 8, I don't think has a stone wall.
Yeah,
It's different,
yeah.
right?
So, in fact, though she used the word stone wall, Diana said that, it's not necessarily a stone wall, it's just that the lines have to match, and somehow when you're having a delineation of the wetlands, they shouldn't pass each other in the night. They've got to
Right.
join.
Well, a delineation of a limit of disturbance, you would
limit of
want them
disturbance.
consistent from one lot to the
Exactly.
next.
Yeah.
Okay. But like I said, when the application comes back and when we look at it, we could continue it, but we could add that in there. That's fine.
That's going to be hard when each application comes back, because we're not going to have this whole plan in front
It
of
is
us.
going to be hard, but that's when it really will have to meet, the dirt meets the road, so to speak, is that we'd have to make sure that that's happening, otherwise they wouldn't get it done right, even if it were on these plans.
So maybe say continuous and uniform throughout the entire development.
You have to be cautious. I don't want to put it so onerous on them that
You
it can't
can't.
be achieved.
Yeah, who enforces it?
Exactly.
You do.
No. Yeah. No, I think it's going to come back to, using Diana's thought, and I think Rick has it,
Right.
is that it'll have to be delineated, as we said, so that there's that the disturbance doesn't go beyond a point from lot to lot. But at the same time, let's not make it so onerous that a homeowner, let alone the developer of today, they won't be able to achieve it.
Am I missing some verbiage here about, the last thing that I actually included was the 8-year maintenance of the plants.
Yes.
Plant maintenance including invasive removals, but with what you're asking for and what you're saying, have I missed a sentence here or a condition?
Yes, that in the similarity in design and what was the other word you used there, Diana?
Continuity.
Design and distance on 4, 5, and 8, that there be continuity on adjoining lots for that limit of disturbance, so that they match. In other words, that your wetland lines continue right where they are, crossing property lines, and they're just not set off by.
Well, it's not wetland lines, it's gonna be, if it's the rock wall, and the neighbor's doing a rock wall, instead of leaving a 5 or 10-foot gap there,
Right.
connect it. If you're doing wetland plants, and they're both doing it, just connect each other, that's the theory of it.
I have a little problem with this, because this is a very good example up here of, where's the continuity going to come into play? For example, here's lot 4, lot 3 and 4, they're so far removed from these lots up here.
Right, they're not gonna be connected. We're not saying every lot.
And this, the wetland line follows the stone wall basically almost all the way. So
Right, you're not gonna need one there.
We're talking about from one lot to the other, right at the property line, so that you don't have it disjointed. The limit of disturbance isn't disjointed.
Where does it come into play, I guess Scott is asking? Which lots do you see that being a problem, on 1 and 2?
Right, on 1 and 2.
I'm not sure it impacts the others.
Well, no, that's a little different because those are 2 separate wetlands, but I'm talking about where wetlands are continuous, like on lot 6 and 5.
Yeah.
That type of thing. I don't think it would occur the same on 1 and 2 because we do have this upland area in between.
So that does seem only to apply on the one.
Right, it's only gonna be a
case.
certain time, but when
Yeah.
the application comes back, at least they know we got, if it happens.
The lot 2, we just were
Right,
told we were going to be deeded over the wetland anyway, so
right,
what are we going to do with it?
right, nothing, right.
Like I said, I'm really wrestling with that one as a condition right now, and I don't mean to be that way with y'all, but I'm really having a tough time grasping what you're asking for here based on knowing what this subdivision is like.
You mean this
This
part of it?
continuity part.
I would only see it occurring on, well, it would occur on lot 4 and 3, 5 and 6, 7 and 8, where some sort of a limit of disturbance is established on each lot. And, when you come to the property line, one shouldn't be at 60 feet and the other be at 30 feet. They should kind of work in together. I think that from an enforcement standpoint, it's going to be a lot easier for you if it's consistent across the property line. If it's not, one property owner will say, well, I've got 50 feet I can't disturb, and my neighbor only has 30 feet. And you won't know where it is.
Then you better deny the application. Between 7 and 8 is all grass anyway. There's not even a wetland there to play with.
But this 8 was the one that we had the planting plan on. So the planting plan should be consistent along the entire wetland, which includes lot 7.
I believe it almost goes off the property for lot 7, the wetland, if memory
The
serves.
wetland is off the property, but we still need the buffer on that property.
Yeah, there's a stone wall there.
Where's the stone? I'm not seeing a stone wall.
It's on there, it's on the property line, the stone wall. But see, the way I'm looking at it, if you look at lot 8, and you put the wetland plants here, you could connect it to the stone wall, this little piece. You know what I'm saying? Well, I mean, you can't do it now, you have to wait until the application comes back.
Yeah, I agree with Diana, but I don't think it can be done here because it's going to have to come in, and that's going to have to be a condition for lot 7 in order to do it. And I think that's our time. But we run the risk of not having it because we all may not be here. Maybe somebody else.
It could be stated as an attempt will be made to connect with the adjacent one. I don't know if we can do that, just so that they're put on notice.
I think then that's fine. Knowing from where we've been so far through this whole application, I don't think that is an onerous condition.
How about this? If wetland continue across property line, then buffer cannot be disjoint.
That wouldn't apply to 7 and 8.
No.
That's why it's an if-then.
No, what I'm saying is the wetland does not continue,
Yeah,
but
right,
it should
doesn't
be
have-
applied to 7 and 8.
Yeah. That does one.
No, it's because that one's on, that's why it's...
Feedback. All right, we've had a number of issues discussed there. Rick, do you accept, or do you want to phrase how you want this, if you will, the continuity issue in there, because
That's fine, we could just put it in there that way, but it'll be determined when the application comes back. I mean, that's the best way to do it. I mean,
Okay.
you can't do it now. So,
Leslie, do you accept it that way? Okay, the motion's second.
The way Diana seconded it, not less
I'm
than.
sorry, my mistake. That's right, Diana did it.
All right, so what is the actual verbiage that we're going to put down here, please?
Continuity will be discussed when the application returns. I mean,
The continuity of the limits of disturbance.
disturbance. Just in case somebody comes in with lot 7 and we ask them to put in whatever, 15 feet of buffer area that connects to lot 8, at least they know.
So continuity of limits of disturbance will be discussed as each lot.
I'm not sure what that buys us, though.
The whole,
What does this applicant
If I
have to
was
do
lot-
to fulfill that condition?
if I was
Nothing.
if I was buying lot 7, I would ask the builder, what does that mean,
Yeah, okay.
right? And then he'll say, lot 8's planting some wetlands plantings, you might have to continue it.
May have to explain it. Okay.
You know what I mean? At least,
Yeah, I'll buy that.
at least the person knows something.
It could raise a question,
Right.
otherwise they don't have anything to fulfill.
All right, continuity of limits of disturbance will be discussed as each lot is reviewed by application by the commission.
Diana, do you accept that? I guess Rick said it, yes, okay. Any discussion regarding the motion?
I have one question, please.
Yes,
I
Scott.
thought that Diana, back in my notes, excuse me, that Dr. Abrams and you had some dialogue about enhancing lot number 4 with some plantings.
You're talking about near wetland flag 126, 127?
Was the concern about larger trees on on lot 4, if I'm remembering?
That reminds me, if you would accept another condition that at some distance from the wetland, all the large trees will be identified 8 inches and above or something like that when the site plan comes in. That way we'll know where they are, and if there's a difference of 5 feet to save a large tree, we may say move on the outside of that.
I want to come back to, first let me do that. Rick, do you accept that all 8-inch and above trees be delineated on each application?
Not like when the septic system is, just on the outskirts. I mean, septic systems are going to get clear cut.
With all the trees that are within, say, 50 feet of the wetland, 8 inches and above will be identified, and then that way they can identify which ones they're going to remove, which ones they're going to save. We'll have a good idea then if they're showing the limits of the disturbance maybe 5 feet in from a large tree that we would want to have saved to protect that buffer, we can have them move it out 5 feet. That's going to help us with our site plan.
You want to do it from the inside of the silt fence?
No, I want to do it from the wetland, like a certain distance from the wetland. They can show which ones they're planning on taking out, but I just like them shown on the site plan. And then we'll
Okay.
know.
So only show the ones that they plan on removing. 'Cause you don't want
No.
to, no?
Show them all, and
Show
then
them-
tell us which ones they're going to remove.
Show them all, because we may think that there's, let's say they put a 40-foot buffer and they've got a tree that's at 46 feet, and we think, well, there's trees between the 40-foot buffer and the wetland, and then it turns out there aren't. We want to make sure we save that tree that's at 46 feet.
Just show them where the buffer area is that they're going to be using?
Show them within 50 feet, and then they can identify which they're removing and which
Well, I
they're
just don't want
saving.
them labeling every single tree that's nowhere, they're not going to be in there.
So is it within
Within 50?
within 50 feet of the wetlands?
Within 50 feet of the wetlands. So what you're saying is where there's disturbance
Right, because,
outside of it, yeah.
you
Like,
know, I don't want them labeling every 8-inch tree in the wetlands when you know they're not even going to be in there, even though it's...
no, I'm
right,
saying
yeah.
from the edge of the wetlands to the 50-foot, not
Okay.
in the wetland.
Right,
I'm just
right.
saying from, so that we know what trees they're removing and what trees they're saving.
Okay.
Coming back then to that is, you accept that and then you second that, that's fine, okay. You still had your question, Scott, that I didn't understand about Lot 4.
And what was this?
Your
what
question was
flag
about
number you gave me?
about Dr. Abrams.
126, 127?
Correct.
What was the question for Dr. Abrams? I don't even
No,
recall.
I thought she asked to add a few plants and he agreed, or some trees.
I don't remember specifically, but it may have been in that open area there, but I think that's something we can deal with when a site plan comes back.
Right.
Okay, good, thank you.
So all 8-inch caliber trees and above within 50 feet from the wetlands to be identified on a site plan where there is going to be disturbance? Or rephrase that in some other form?
You think 8 inches is reasonable, or maybe it's too small? Should we start with a larger?
It's not my motion.
I will go larger. I mean, well, I mean, this is mostly fields, isn't it?
On this side it is.
Yeah.
On this side, though, it's full-size trees over here. So,
Well,
and we may want to save some of the smaller ones if we don't have a larger one. You know, we want to save that
I would
canopy.
think most of these places would rather keep the trees. I mean, you know, if they could. I mean, if you want to go a little bit larger, say 12-inch, I just think 8 inches is going to be, if it is that wood, it's going to be a lot of trees for him to survey.
Right. What about 10-inch?
Okay, 10.
Okay.
Scott, could you read that again? I want to hear it one more time.
Well, no, I'm going to have to craft this, I think.
Yeah, I want to hear what you have, though, please.
All right, so wherever there is disturbance 50 feet from the wetlands, all 10-inch caliber trees and above shall be identified on the site plan.
And so within 50 feet, but you also want to mark as those that they propose to remove versus those they're leaving. Because that, if you don't know the difference, it doesn't matter what they put on there.
Well, we will know that too with it's on their site plan for their proposed activity, so we'll know which ones they're removing.
If I'm not mistaken, a plan came in with a septic system which showed a couple of trees and we asked them to put collars around it. You want some,
Arnold Lane.
right, so you wanted something like that. So remember that we said, why don't we save these trees and put collars around it? Right, that's what you want to see. Right.
Leslie?
I think this is the last one. I think last meeting, Diana mentioned more trees on Lot 8 to preserve the shade.
Is that near the detention pond?
That was as part. No, this was part of the buffer.
Well, I think you had mentioned that you didn't think there were enough plants there, so we'll look at the site plan when it comes back.
Yeah, there was a planting detail on that hasn't been incorporated yet, right? It's on one of the 8.5 by 11s.
On Lot 8, there's a planting detail.
Right.
That's on there.
Right,
Is
but
it
it
part of
didn't
the motion?
include.
So you should
It didn't include trees, and there was concern about maintaining shade.
That was right, I did mention that they should put trees in addition to the shrubs, and he said that would be fine. So I think that's what we're going to look at.
For Lot 8.
For you know, any of the lots where it's a meadow
Right.
right up to the wetland, and they include a planting plan, which they should, in order to be consistent with Lot 8.
Do you want that part of the motion?
Well, that's fine, but like I said, that's got to come back. We can ask them to
Okay.
put the trees. So, yeah, I want to, you
Scott-
shouldn't get into
Scott had a
detail like
different-
that. I wouldn't,
Lot 8, as this 8.5 by 11 was submitted as part of the public hearing, and
Right.
I really think that
you want to keep that?
really
Okay.
needs to, because that's going to get lost in the shuffle if one opens up the grand plan here and doesn't have.
The grand
rest of it.
plan is going to show the trees on this plan.
Part of the motion says it's going to incorporate those 8.5 by 11s on for lots 4, 5, and 8
Right.
on this
On the
plan.
plan.
And if we're using and then if we've got the language to use 4, 5, and 8 as a model, then we probably want a statement of having sufficient trees to maintain shade.
That would come back as an individual plan for each
That's when-
lot, correct?
That's when you would address it, because that's when the homeowner and everyone else is going to decide whether they would agree to it or not.
Okay, so you're okay with the Lot 8 being on the, we've got to get these 8.5 by 11s onto the site plan is what.
Yeah, it's going to, in order for them to meet the standard condition number 2, which will be the site plan that's dated such and such date, we don't know when that is, 4, 5, and 8 better be on there.
The details of 4, 5, and 8 as
Yes.
submitted at public hearing of.
At the public hearing.
The
November 13th.
last meeting, right,
All right, so. is that-
Exactly.
right.
He
He's gonna-
stated that.
Right, he's gonna draw in the rock wall, so that whoever buys this lot knows there's a rock wall and that, that area.
Other concerns or issues? This has taken a long time to get a single motion out in second. Drew?
Is it okay if I ask to read back the discussion over continuity?
Certainly you can ask. What are your concerns?
What do you have there, Scott?
Oh, to read it back.
Continuity of limits of disturbance will be discussed as each lot is reviewed by application by the commission.
Continuity between the lots?
Continuity of limits of disturbance.
Should we reference that it's from lot to lot? Should that
I
be
think it
assumed,
makes
or
it
should
clear.
we say?
No, I think it makes it clear that way.
No, I'm concerned a little bit about the entire motion in some respects, in that there was a lot of discussion and give and take on it, and it's up to Scott, unfortunately, or fortunately for him, is to draft this thing so that we all understand what exactly was said. And because just that, hearing what he just said there.
But, I mean, you
and
could
perhaps
do
some of
lot
the
to
others.
lot, but you see what, what Diane's trying to get across, that once you got these plantings on this side, if lot 7 comes in, say, could you continue another 10 feet to the retaining wall there?
Yeah,
It's existing.
I understand that, but I don't see how that applies. And I like the idea, but I don't see how it is as a condition for the developer. He doesn't have to do anything.
No, he doesn't have to do anything. It's gonna be lots, whoever buys the lot, because the developers only has this plan here. He's not building it.
We don't know that.
Right. No, he could be building it. We don't know that,
We don't
right?
know
He could be
that.
doing the whole development. So, if it's in there, I don't think it hurts him. And if somebody buys it, they're gonna ask the question what it is, right?
So I guess my concern would be is the way it's worded, it has to have a statement that is written in such a way that it does have an impact on a condition that the developer must meet.
Or the property owners must.
Or the
meet.
property owners, right. The way we wrote this, I don't think it does anything. It just
Right, I
states
think
our
it-
desires, but it doesn't say he has to meet this certain condition.
Well, I think what we're trying to get them to do is have it consistent with these, but because we don't have an actual plan that shows that, then we have to try to get them to see the intent, so that when they come in with the site plan, they know what the intent is, and they try to design it with that intent. If we put it too restrictive, then they really have no options.
Yeah, I'm not arguing that it be more restrictive. I just wanted a clear understanding that when we pass or vote on this, that there is a clear understanding by the developer or the layman who comes in to read the motion of what we did pass, that it makes sense.
The way I look at it, usually it's the same engineering firm that's gonna be designing these homes. They're gonna know what we were talking about. He might already come in with that plan already drawn. That's the way I look at it.
My only concern was the way it was read back to us.
Well, I think
the way
we
it was
need to
written.
add the lot to lot, because that tells what's being discussed, really. You think?
All right, so continuity of limits of disturbance from lot to lot will be discussed as each application is reviewed by the commission? Continuity of limits of disturbance. Between.
It's hard for a committee to write this.
Or that's why I'm saying the easiest way is when the application comes back and you could say, you know what, lot 8 had the plants. That's the easiest way to do it.
All right, no, I agree with you. We need
Right.
to red flag it though, and this is a way that somebody asks. the
Somehow,
question,
yes.
What does this mean?
Right.
All right, continuity of limits of disturbance between lots will be, how about addressed?
That's better than
As each
before.
lot is reviewed by application by the commission. As each lot is reviewed. I'm putting in by application so that we know that it's not just a review, that it does require an application. That's the only reason I've put that in that way.
How about we just say, as each application is reviewed? Is the word lot again necessary?
So, yeah, it's just,
Yes, because that's talking about what the continuity
that-
is.
the wordsmithing is what's concerned me here, is that I think we all understand the concept, and it was a very good concept to try to make that, at least across the two lots there, and perhaps other ones, similar in distance and design as it was originally stated, that continuity be there. I think we got hung up on how we're going to word it, and I think it's important that the principle be established so that it is a matter of record for the applicant tonight and any future property owner there. Would anyone else like to add anything to that or concern? I'll stop for a moment and just let you ponder. My only concern about all that was discussed tonight in making this motion is that we did it in somewhat a disjointed fashion, and that I don't think any one of us could recite back what the motion is. And I'm reluctant to have you vote on the motion until we know what it is. The problem with that is, my thought here is to not have you vote tonight, to have the motion written up for us for December 11th, I think is our next meeting, come back here and understand what the heck we're voting on, because there was a lot thrown back and forth.
Okay, let me run through this then. I'm sorry.
Let him run through it.
Okay. Motion to approve. Sheet SP1, item number 5, approval BOS, which is me. I'll have to look at that and find out what's going on. Lots 4, 5, and 8 are going to be incorporated into the site plans. Lot number 5, the walls are to connect, and that must also be shown on a new set of plans. Each lot with wetlands comes back before the commission with an application.
It's all lots, not each lot with wetlands, because 7 needs to come back, but it doesn't have wetlands on it.
Yeah, well, like I say, lot 7, I don't believe has wetlands on it, to be honest with you.
It doesn't, but the activity could take place within 100 feet because it comes right up to the property line. So we had decided lot 7 is going to come. So all of the lots are coming back for site
The
plans.
motion was for all.
Okay. So all lots. Well, we can't, so just all lots, not all lots with wetlands then.
That's right.
All right, all lots come back to the commission with an application. On the 112707 handouts that showed the easements are to be deeded fee simple to the town. Engineering
No, wait, that, you can't word it that way. You're not deeding easements to the town. You're deeding property, title.
All right, well, easement areas,
It's not an easement anymore at all.
No, I said change the easement to property
Yeah.
transfer, yeah.
right.
Yeah.
Okay.
112707 handout was to change the easement areas to deeded to the town, period.
Yeah.
All right. Changed. Engineering supervision for the detention pond berm. You added a lot of other verbiage in there, and I'll pluck it out of
Right, for the detention pond.
whatever's.
According to the specs on SP7 or
Right,
something. Yeah.
detention pond berm specs, and I will detail the specs. The old farm road crossing between lots 8 and 9 to be removed. The design of the lots this is where I get a little scary and I have to write something else up, but the design of the lots that come back should mimic lots 4, 5, and 8. Is that kind of what I thought is what you were trying to
It would
say?
be the design of the limits of disturbance. That's not worded quite right either, but it is limits of disturbance are going to be designed.
Should mimic limits of disturbance.
Right.
And distance.
Design and distance.
And distance. And then we went on to the standards, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 12A, yes, 13, 14.
I think 6 we removed.
6 was removed.
6 meant there was no deed restriction.
Why not?
Because they didn't offer it to us.
Why didn't we talk about that?
Yeah, we didn't ask for one. Do you think it was different?
Well, that's what I thought.
Don't we typically deed restrict wetlands?
Prior to a building permit being issued, a deed restriction must be placed on the land records, is what item 6 is.
For the wetlands? Or just for the wetlands, not the
To ensure
limited
that the
district?
wetlands will not be
Oh,
disturbed.
you might have discussed that with him.
It's not matter whether you discussed it, it's matter it's a condition of approval. That's a standard condition.
Oh, we'll leave item 6 there for the wetlands.
Which is what I thought it was for.
Okay.
You were right, Scott.
7, 8, 9, all right, we did that. All right, plant maintenance, and I did not put down a year.
5.
5 years.
That was 3.
You're joking.
Back to
Come
that
on,
8
man.
again. All right,
Be
plant
serious.
maintenance, 5-year survival and replacement, or how do you want to say that?
Maintenance until plants are established, something like that.
But it also includes invasive removal, which...
Didn't you say something about like 85% survival or something?
Exactly, yeah, that's Diana.
All right, so you want a 5-year monitoring program. Including invasive removal,
Maintenance and monitoring program.
plant maintenance monitoring program for 5 years, including invasive removal.
Maintenance and monitoring.
Yeah, that's what he
Keep them
said.
separate.
Yes, we said, yeah.
He said it.
Including removal of invasive species. The method should be approved by the agency, so you could approve the method on that if everybody else is okay with that. And ensuring 85% survival.
So removal of invasives is a plan must be presented.
Can it be done administratively?
Well, either way, invasive removal plan to be presented to the commission or its agent. Continuity of limits of disturbance between lots, will be addressed as each lot is reviewed by application by the commission. All 10-inch caliber trees, where there is disturbance within 50 feet of the wetlands, all 10-inch caliber trees and above shall be identified on the site plan.
Yes, existing trees?
All 10-inch,
You
all
think he's gonna haul in
existing.
some bigger trees?
They may think they're going to identify, I don't know.
All existing 10-inch, all right, where there is disturbance within 50 feet from the wetlands, all existing 10-inch caliber trees and greater or above, the word above was used, but someone could say that the trees are above.
No greater than 10, no greater than 10 feet. What you gotta walk
And that is your motion, seconded by,
Rick, are you happy with that motion, the way you read it back?
Yeah, that's fine.
Diana, are you happy with that? Does everyone understand it?
Just one thing, when you said 4, 5, and 8 incorporated into site plans, do we want to reference the date that it was the 11/13 revision?
I think we did that, we mentioned the date of the public hearing, didn't you?
11,
13.
13, yeah.
Right, yeah, I put it, like,
The date's in there.
either way, it's still.
It's still part of the public
Okay,
hearing. You
all
don't
right,
even have
as
to
long-
state the
okay,
date.
it's
You can
the-
state
Right,
it
I'll
at the
do
public
it,
hearing.
but it was 11/13/07. 8, I'm gonna just do the 8.5 by 11 inch is,
That's right, 8.5 by 11 inch.
okay, and I believe that is, where we stand.
Any discussion? All those in favor of the motion, please indicate by raising one of their hands in the air. All those, it looks like it's unanimous there. Nobody opposed. It passes. Mr. Riccatelli, Bob Weway, thank you for your patience tonight and over the time. Thank you for cooperating with us on getting this done to what we hope is good for us and for you as well. Thank you again. We do have one other item on the agenda, ladies and gentlemen. Let's tend to it as quick as we can.
Longest motion ever.
That was the long motion. Ron, we're going to have to go into executive session, so we're going to have you stop the audio and video, please.
Make a motion to go to executive session?
Thank you. Would someone second? Second by Leslie. We adjourn at 9:52 to go into executive session. Welcome back, everybody. We just came out of executive session. This is the Inland Wetlands and Watercourses Commission. Do you have one other item? It's at 10:16, 10:17.
10:17. I forgot on the enforcement officer's report, and I really want the commission to see this. Peck Place School, of all places, wants to put in an absolutely gigantic
Parking lot.
play area.
Play area. Let me help you hold it up.
Is it a swimming pool?
There will be as soon as they dig. It's 145 feet from stem to stern. Short slides, 115 feet, and 65 feet this way. There was no scale on this, but a 30 scale, which is what this plan is. Proper orientation puts this playground right here, which puts it right into the
This being
wetlands.
where Peck Place is out here,
Yeah,
the road
there's
itself,
the school.
going north that way.
Here's our infamous addition.
Yeah, there's the main body of the school.
Here's our federal wetland delineation that was used.
That's
for
what I'm
this.
saying, we have a federal wetland delineation, which is not legal for us to use.
And, so where's this
Either way,
going?
this thing is just way too big. As you can see, we're well on the other side of the drainage ditch that goes through here and the wetlands that I know that are over there. So ask them to shrink it, tell them they can't do it at all. How do we want to proceed with this? Ask them to find another place.
Are they
for it?
pitching the whole parking lot into the wetlands?
There's
No.
there's no parking lot here. This
No,
is-
I mean after it's in.
They can't go over here because it's septic. Out here by the front, you don't really want it out by the front. There is an existing playground there now. It's not like but it's huge.
Last time we reviewed this application, we did not have a proper Connecticut wetland delineation. I did not vote to approve it, and that was one of the reasons. So I would not want to consider this unless we had an application with a wetland delineation that met Connecticut general statutes requirements.
I tend to agree, and I also heard, and you heard me say it at the beginning of this, I quite frankly thought this was going to be the parking lot application. There is apparently a great need for parking over there, and that's what I had expected this to be. So I'm concerned about what the overall plan is, let alone here. What are they doing on some other part of the site that they have available for playground, let alone parking? What is it that they plan to do? Because I think we may have both of those together to understand what space is available to achieve what all that they wanted to do. Your thoughts? Drew?
I agree.
Thank you.
Same.
Sounds like we need an application. I would like them to think of an overall plan if we can. I know we can't ask that they bring it in. I'm sorry, we can ask that they bring it in if they don't have to. If they want to ignore parking now,
If
that's
they're
up to
doing
them.
parking, it'd be wise for them to do playground and parking at the same time.
Yes,
Right,
that's
they're
my
gonna-
point.
Right.
Walter?
Who is doing this, the Board of Education or the long-range program, or who?
This is,
The person that brought it, I forget that. The person
Yeah.
that brought it to me was president of the PTA,
This is a PTA project then?
possibly. I guess. I mean, that's who
It,
brought it to me.
It has to come as an application from the Board of Education, if you, or from the town. It can't be the PTA.
Well, I would think.
They cannot represent the town property.
Well,
And they may
PTA
have be behind it. I mean, I helped build the playgrounds here at school and in town already, but we can't do it at the townhouse.
Well, that's one thing, PTA would do the playground, but not
Yeah.
the parking lot.
Yeah, that's
Right.
true. But the town, I presume, is the applicant,
Board of Education.
or Board of Ed, yeah, which is, the town's.
I only have this out as a
Yeah,
reference
I'm
from
sorry, yeah.
the other application.
In some, though, after that discussion, it seems like we don't want to nix this, but we do want an application.
For such a large plan, I'd strongly encourage them to present both the parking lot and the playground together.
Yeah,
I mean, you know, because
If they can, they may be
runoff
two
and all the-
disjointed.
and all the other
They
conditions.
may be two different groups of people.
different
totally.
boards.
Yeah, totally. I think that's it. I think we're all done here.
If so, will we adjourn?
Thank you, Walter, for the motion. Move to adjourn at 10:22 p.m.